Almost a year ago, my ex-husband and I got divorced. I found him in bed with a man and a woman, and he had been unfaithful for more than half the time we had been together. He was too sex. Despite all of his pleas, I soon divorced him and we parted ways. I've made an effort to succinctly explain our decision to part ways without identifying him to my 15-year-old daughter. I never meant to make her dislike her dad or turn her away from him. We had promised our daughter that we would do everything in our power to protect her at this difficult time. She has been acting very disrespectfully and hatefully towards me lately, and for the longest time I didn't know why, that is, until she had a tantrum and told me that I had destroyed her life and that her family would still be intact if I had simply kept my legs closed. I was initially taken aback by this. After becoming enraged, I was perplexed as to where she obtained this knowledge. When I had previously asked her, she had said that I would not be speaking with her as I had destroyed her life. I questioned her father over the phone if he had any information about this and if he had told anyone that I was the one who made a mistake. However, he waved it all away, claiming he had no idea where she had obtained the information. I was now really perplexed and furious with her for saying this to me, but I decided to hold off until I was certain of the situation. Despite my repeated attempts to engage in conversation, she persisted in shutting me down, accusing me of ruining her life, being a bad mother, prioritizing sex above her family, and blaming me alone for not having a parent-child relationship. I also contacted all of my friends and relatives to ask if they had said anything that would have contributed to this. I'm not proud of this right now, but I picked up a message that appeared on my daughter's phone. "I know, sweetie, just 3 more days," her father wrote in the message. When I unlocked my phone, I saw a ton of texts between the two of them exchanging back and forth. She told him that she was tired of being here, that she wouldn't want to be around me after I cheated, that she was disgusted by me, and that her father had merely agreed and comforted her. I repeatedly asked him whether he knew anything about her actions, and each time he denied it and blamed me without any justification. After that, I gave him another call and messaged him about it, but he didn't answer and the message was left unread. I sat my daughter down and told her that although I tried to protect her from this and keep her as far away from it as possible, I know she's upset with me and that I won't be held responsible for things that weren't my fault. Any queries that I was unable to answer from an outsider's point of view, I left out. She expressed amazement and regret for her actions against me. This wasn't a small-time retaliation against him, but I also can't let our relationship fall apart. Now, for doing this, I'm receiving criticism from both his and my family's. Regarding the top comments, "It's not Dahal, and you ought to take a screenshot and save those chats when he betrays you. That's parental alienation, which is prohibited in many places. Keep any communications in which you agreed not to talk to her about it and in which he acknowledged that he was the one who had cheated. In the event that this gets worse, I would then speak with an attorney." Oh my God. I get so mad when people who cheat claim their partner cheated and try to make their children despise the faithful parent. He's worthless. He's such trash. Sweetheart, only 3 days left. Immediate throw up. This is what my ex-husband did too, saying I was the one who was dangerous. I had intended to wait to tell my son anything till he was in his late teens or even adulthood. I had intended to go with the statement that sometimes, despite people's best efforts, it is better for them to be apart. After all, we couldn't coexist peacefully and respectfully as a loving couple. However, I was forced to tell the truth when my kid returned home and had completely turned everything around on me. I asked him to apply his critical thinking abilities when I wasn't sure what to believe. For instance, my ex is physically stronger than I am, therefore I can't physically make up for what he vowed to do to me. If he didn't believe me, I wouldn't be angry with him. Not the whole honesty reads as the right and excellent choice in an extremely crappy scenario, but he considered the facts and arrived at the right conclusion. She was already no longer being shielded from it when you explain things, so his deceit and manipulation to present himself in the best possible way after being the one to ruin things make him someone with whom one should not sympathize. And the best position to be in at that point is to know what actually happened. I hope the family has the whole narrative as well. Yes, I agree, but I'm not sure what the family knows or doesn't know because some of it also involves his family, so I can't really speak with them about it. Can you have a conversation with them about it to ensure that they understand the truth, or can you, at the very least, put together a written record that is as truthful but objective as you can. It wouldn't be shocking if he went farther if he was turning your daughter against you behind your back. Indeed, there are instances where being the first to point out a messy situation gives you the right to slant it somewhat in your favor, and people occasionally take advantage of that. I know they won't believe me or they'll have an issue with something, so I'm just trying to utilize what little energy I have to debate with them about it. I could, but that's a lot of people, and from my experience, extremely defined and contentious people. Do you have evidence that you lied? You must speak with your lawyer as soon as possible because you will require it and you will involve your daughter in this mess. You need as much evidence as you can collect, but it's not Dale, his honest M-Kana against you. I'm not sure where this will go right now, but hopefully I won't need it. I have the texts and documentation of all the money he has acknowledged to spending on hotels with other people. Next story. Given that my boyfriend was going to ask his parents to cover all of the costs on our trip, am I really so bad for not letting him go? Since the beginning of the year, my 20-something female university friends and I have been organizing a trip for March of next year. I've asked my boyfriend, 19 years old, a man, if he would like to go as well since two of my friends are bringing their partners. However, he must earn the money to pay for his own expenses, which came to be about $5,000 Canadian dollars, for lodging and airfare. I knew he would ask his parents, who had always provided for him, for the money to pay for the expenditures, so I made this request months ago. Similar to how his sibling requested $2,000 to have a TV in his room and $3,000 for a gaming setup. Although not extremely wealthy, his family is well off. His mother has often asked him to try and get a part-time work during the summer, but he has never succeeded in doing so. Due to the fact that I was raised in a home where money was tight, I have done several part-time jobs since I was 16 and have been attempting to persuade him to work with his mother. He informed me he wanted to take a vacation with me a few days ago, which surprised me because I wondered how he was going to raise $5,000 considering that semester break doesn't start until February and we still have courses. He said that he asked his parents, and they agreed to assist with covering his costs. I made it plain that I didn't want his parents to cover his expenses and that he would have to earn his keep. So I told him no, I would not be letting him travel with me and I wouldn't give him access to our itinerary. However, he informed me that since I was never in charge of my parents' finances, I should have no voice in this matter. After we got into an argument about it, he branded me a manipulative, controlling freak and vented to my friends and our traveling companions. They all agreed that I was a little out of line and shouldn't have any influence over how he raised the necessary dollars, even if we are in the same friend circle. It truly baffled me since I'm not sure whether I'm at fault here, but I don't want to vent to my other friends about it because I don't want them to think poorly of me or my partner. Do I look like an a-hole? Here everybody is bad. It's clear that your partner has entitlement problems. Because you're using your vacation to make a point and control your boyfriend's behavior, you're already a bad person. You shouldn't be in a relationship and then humiliate and exclude someone from becoming the person you truly want to date. But if his lack of a job disturbs you, break up. It's Opie's mother, and the dynamic between them is not good at all. There's an air of neediness about him. Opie was wise, in my opinion. She now realizes how entitled and sluggish he is, and what a terrible life mate he would make. I'm going with Whitehall, not because you insisted that he pay for himself, you seem to value self-sufficiency, but rather because you continued to date him despite having known him for months. Being independent is insufficient for traveling, and being a boyfriend is much less sufficient. You seem to be attempting to mend him. Give up and find other men who aren't damaged. Break up with him if you don't want to date a conceited, lazy person. Perhaps after school he will lead a new life, but making changes while enrolled in full-time school is difficult. Furthermore, your relationship is not built on a girlfriend teaching her boyfriend pal how to be independent. Either he will or he won't. This travel is not the means by which it will occur. He's a 19-year-old pampered brat who attends a posh college and has wealthy parents. Give up treating guys like cash cows and start evaluating them on the value they bring. For God's sake, look at this child. Next article. Am I a jerk for not wanting my spouse to attend the burial of his former partner? Al concedes that I have biases from the outset. I had no patience for her. To myself and others, I referred to her as his ex. I also labeled her his buddy. All of us should be in our early 40s. I just learned that, although he had known her for more than 20 years, I had been with him for 10. According to how it is told, they were college pals who went on dates, got married, realized they weren't a good match, and then chose to remain friends. Years passed before I ever met him. He made it obvious right away that she was significant. It was discovered after a few months of dating that his friend was actually his ex-wife. He gave me an explanation, telling me that relationship was only platonic and that she was one of his best friends. I asked again when we got engaged, and he said, "That's fine. If you have a serious issue with it, let me know now and save us some time because I'll choose her. I like you at all, but I've known her for over 12 years, and she's one of the most important people in my life. You'll have to be okay with that if you want us to be a thing." I expressed discomfort at him being so close to an ex. "Why would us getting married affect my friendships?" he questioned, giving me this confused expression. I swallowed it and went ahead. I hated every second of knowing her, especially the social occasions. She recognized a side of him that I was unable to. Her husband wasn't exactly an angle for me, he was friends with mine too. They would go to their nerdy flicks and have lunch with the ex. She passed away the other day after they had lunch and were on their way to her car. The few times I brought it up, he responded, "We had this conversation before. You had your chance to back out." He sobbed for a long while, but to be honest, I was relieved. He was arranging the funeral arrangements with her spouse. My argument was summarized when I asked him, "You don't think you're going, do you? She's dead, so she's no longer a fact here. She's no longer with him. Therefore he can't use his 'she's my friend' defense." He cried for a few days after that. He can finally put an end to his grief for her. Since I wouldn't want her at his burial, he doesn't need to attend hers. When I told him that, he was the angrier I've ever seen him. He responded by saying he would go regardless of how I felt and that he was willing to burn this place to the ground while brandishing his wedding band. "She was my closest buddy, other than you." About this, he, her husband, and my sisters are all labeling me a cruel and insensitive a-hole, claiming that their relationship lacks any romantic elements. Her spouse even went so far as to refer to my reactions as ghoulish. I wanted to be with my husband, and for years I believed that their relationship was inappropriate. I believe like I can speak freely now that she's gone and I shouldn't have to hide it. Do I sound like a moron for asking him to move on from her and skip the funeral? Here are the most popular comments. "Your deal. When he divorces you, he probably won't have to explain his friendship with you to the next woman because seriously, who'd want to stay friends with a woman who treated you like this? This how heartless. I really hope they don't have any children together, so when he divorces Opie, he can cut contact for good. If they had children, Opie would have mentioned that after she got pregnant. She again tried to convince him that he needed to give up his friendship. If she doesn't exist anymore, why are you still so jealous of her? He can't even leave you for her now, so I think it's time you got past it. You're Theo, you can speak freely, and you can leave after finding out how heartless you actually are. Fair enough. I bet he will leave her over this anyway, even when the ex is dead. 'Cause damn, did you prove to be a crappy person? Final narrative. Am I an a-hole for not wanting to give my adult stepdaughter her own room in our new home? I, 35 female, have been with my husband, 43 male, James for 3 years, married for 18 months. He has a 21-year-old daughter from his previous marriage, Jane. Jane and I get along well, but she was already away at college by the time her dad and I got serious, so we don't have a very close relationship. James and I are looking to purchase a home together because our current home is not going to work for me long-term due to some disabilities. We found a few we liked and we were discussing our options when I referred to the third room as the guest room. James asked what I meant because that would be Jan's room. This led to an argument between us because I don't think Jane needs a dedicated bedroom in our new home. She's renting her own place now with roommates year-round. No more student housing, and she still has her room at her mom's house. Of course, she's always welcome to visit, and if we were to ever need to move back in, then we could adjust at the time. But as it stands, she is an adult moving on to the adult portion of her life, and it seems silly to dedicate a room for her when she'll use it for 2 weeks out the year, max. My husband is upset with me still, but I really don't think his position is that strong. She's a grown-up now. Am I an a-hole? Nodal, as you say, she's a grown woman with her own grown-up home. Why on earth would she need her own room in your new house? Tell your husband to cut the umbilical cord. I wonder if this is less about the umbilical cord and more about feeling some competition with the ex who still has a room for her adult daughter. This is it. Mom is home because mom has a room for her, not the a-hole. I'm astonished at people calling you an a-hole and suggesting your daughter should get to decorate a room in your house which she doesn't live at. If my father tried to allocate me a room like this, I'd find it deeply weird. Have you got any indication about her feelings on this madness? When we haven't spoken to her about it, but she usually prefers staying at her mom's way, so I would guess that she won't be all that interested. Maybe this is your husband wanting to keep a door open, so to speak, but it feels like a futile and somewhat wasteful gesture. In any case, this sounds like an issue he needs to work through, which is creating a problem for you. Only advice that could be given is to stand firm but speak through it with him. No a-holes here, but I strongly suggest you call the third bedroom Jane's room, at least for now. Moving into a new home is trustful enough. Your husband doesn't want to feel like he's losing his old house and his daughter, which is exactly what he's going to worry about if you start using the Jane can just stay at her mom's house logic. If Jane had her own room in the old house, then for now, let her have her own room in the new house. As time goes on and everyone settles in, and your husband realizes how sporadically Jane visits, then he'll be able to accept the fact that Jane is an adult and the new house isn't her home. Not because she never had a bedroom to begin with, but because Jane grew up into a woman with her own home and her own space. If you let the process happen naturally, it'll still happen, but you won't look like the mean stepmother pushing out his daughter.